Jeremiah Smith is gearing up to have another great year as he goes into the 2025 season, a season where they got to play some big games early. They got one against Texas. The goal obviously is the same for them, win the national championship again. But I was taking some time to actually really think about, can Jeremiah Smith be the best college football wide receiver ever? And what I will say, so far at his age, there's never been a better wide receiver. At his current age, what he was able to do might potentially be the best freshman college football player ever. But when you dive into the conversation of, can he be the best college football wide receiver ever, there is a debate. I really do believe there's a big debate there. And first, what you have to stack him up against is the competition, the people that he would be competing with for this title. And the list of names varies from players like Larry Fitzgerald, Julio Jones, Calvin Johnson. The two that I think will be the toughest for him to surpass who are, in my opinion, the two best to ever play the position, and that's Randy Moss and Devanta Smith. Randy Moss was incredible at Marshall, got off to a rocky start in his college football career, though, obviously committed to a handful of other schools, had some off-the-field incidents, and ended up going to Marshall where he really dominated the Thundering Herd. I mean, he really played incredible. He was pretty much unstoppable out there. He was putting up video game numbers. He was a really remarkable wide receiver. And he's a guy that, Jeremiah Smith has the flash for sure to pass him later on, but he was really incredible at Marshall. But the one guy that I believe is going to be the toughest for Jeremiah Smith to surpass, Devanta Smith. I mean, this guy pretty much did it all accolades-wise, was the Heisman Trophy winner, had one of the most ridiculous receiving seasons. That COVID year was one of the most ridiculous wide receiver seasons I have seen in recent memory. He absolutely torched the Buckeyes in the biggest game, the national championship, when it really mattered. Obviously, he had a highlight play moment where against Georgia in the national championship game, he was the one, I believe as a freshman, he caught the game-winning national championship catch in overtime for Alabama to beat Georgia in that crazy game. So he has that crazy highlight moment, and he has one of the most ridiculous and insane wide receiver seasons in college football history. So that guy is going to be the toughest for Jeremiah Smith to surpass. But if you look at it, he is well on his way. After the first season, you got to look at what he's already done. He has had some unbelievable flashy plays. He's had over a 1,000-yard freshman season where he had 10-plus touchdowns. Obviously, wins a national championship in his first season, which is definitely remarkable. He already has the championship crossed off at this point, which is big for his case. A few more would definitely help it out. But the one national championship is big for his case. And he has had a highlight moment. He did have the game-sealing catch in the national championship game. Like when he had that long extended catch, that solidified it for Ohio State. So he did have that play up his sleeve. So he is on his way. He's going to have a really good either sophomore or junior season, though. He doesn't necessarily need to win another national championship, although it would definitely help his case. But at this point, it's accolades that he needs to go after. And the Biletnikoff, he obviously needs to win that if he wants to be in this debate. And I think if he wants to be remembered as the best college football wide receiver ever, I think he needs to secure the Heisman Trophy. And I don't think it's out of reach. I think he can definitely, because next year or the year after, I certainly think, if not already, he is going to be the most valuable player in college football when you look at it, when you look at the talent. He can only go up barring a terrible injury, he can only go up from what we saw from him in his first season, and a ridiculous season that was for a freshman. Only person that comes to mind that has ever played at a level like that as a freshman was Adrian Peterson. That's it. I mean, it's a short class of people that played that well. Like even Devanta Smith, he had that moment in the national championship game, which is obviously unforgettable. But you have to remember, outside of that, he didn't do that much that year. Jeremiah Smith was their number one receiver all year as a freshman. Next year, he's going to get targeted a lot. He needs to win a Heisman Trophy to be considered the best ever, though, in my opinion. I think that would be huge for him. I think it'd put him over the top. I think he's going to be able to surpass a lot of these guys that I consider in the top 5 list, but Devonta Smith is going to be tough for him to pass. I think that's the guy that I think he's chasing right now, if he were to put a mental note of it, because you can't really match that level of greatness. Like 2 national championships, Heisman Trophy, ridiculous season. You can't really compete with that unless he needs to win the Heisman Trophy. As I said, I don't think that he needs to win another national championship to solidify that. One in the grand scheme of things is enough, but it would certainly help his case if he were able to get another one. And Ohio State, they got a shot to do it. I mean, the guy that's going to be throwing him the ball, Julian Sayin, is supposedly a baller. So he should be able to get him in the position to win the Heisman Trophy if Sayin is what they think he is. And you also have to remember he had Will Howard his first year who was throwing him the ball. I thought Will Howard was a good quarterback, did a good job, was a great leader for that Ohio State national championship team. But with that being said, I don't know if Will Howard's the most accurate quarterback per se. So I think that if Sayin is a little more accurate, his numbers could skyrocket, debatably, and it could build a case for Jeremiah Smith to potentially be one of the best when it's all said and done. I think without question, if you're talking about just Ohio State, I think by the end of this year, he'll be considered the best wide receiver to go to Ohio State. I think it'll take him that third year to really start to get noise and bump this conversation. But you also do have to remember with him, he has pretty much, I would say it's a 0% chance that he stays through his senior season, which it just makes sense at this point because he could have went pro after this year. He probably would have been a top 3 pick, and there would just be no point for him to, like, by the time he's a junior, it's going to feel like he should have been in the league so long ago that it's going to be wild watching him play as a junior. But that's another thing. Time is kind of going to work against him for the best of all time debate. Like, he's not going to have some of those all-time yardage stats that some of these people have. I mean, he theoretically could if he went crazy some of these years, but it would be very tough for him to do that. So he pretty much needs to have the best career as a wide receiver in college football history ever in 3 years. And it can be done, as I said, but the path is he probably needs to get the Heisman Trophy. He probably needs to get the Heisman Trophy if he wants to get something like that done. But it's something I certainly think he can do. And as I said, Ohio State is reloaded at quarterback. They're going to be good. They're going to be a much-watched team, very competitive. I think, as I go back to what I was saying, he should be regarded as the best Ohio State wide receiver after next year. I'd say the only people at this point that you can make a case that are better than him are Marvin Harrison Jr. had a ridiculous year at Ohio State, Biletnikoff winner, and David Boston. Those are the two that I would say, like David Boston has that award too. Those are the two that are probably above him right now. Give Jeremiah Smith one more year. I predict Jeremiah Smith wins the Biletnikoff next year. Don't know if it's quite the Heisman season for him yet, but he's next, and we'll see, and we'll really do see if he'll be the best of all time.